Hello, today we'll be talking about Romanticism and specifically how Gothic and sublime imagery work together in the genre of artwork. Just a disclaimer, I'm getting over being sick, so if my voice sounds a little raspy, that's why. But nonetheless, let's get into it. Romanticism emerged in late 18th and early 19th century Europe as a reaction against Enlightenment rationalism and the rigid formal ideas of neoclassicism. Rather than emphasizing order, clarity, and reason, Romantic artists prioritized emotion, subjectivity, and the limits of human understanding. This video will argue that Gothic and sublime aesthetics work together in Romanticism to transform terror into meaning, allowing viewers to confront subjects like death, insignificance, and the unknown. Though through close analysis of Caspar David Friedrich's Abbey in the Oakwood and Henry Fuseli's The Nightmare, I will demonstrate how Romantic artists use Gothic forms to provoke sublime emotional experiences. The Gothic revival of the 18th century was not simply a trend, but a cultural fascination with the medieval past. Gothic architecture, characterized by pointed arcs, vertical emphasis, and shadowed interiors, was associated with mystery, spirituality, and emotional intensity rather than classical harmony. For Romantic artists, the Gothic symbolized a rejection of Enlightenment certainty. Ruins, in particular, function as memento mori, reminding viewers of mortality, decay, and passage of time. Unlike classical ruins, which were often idealized as noble remnants of antiquity, Gothic ruins were irregular, fragmented, and emotionally charged. This revival coincided with philosophical discussions of the sublime, particularly Edmund Burke's 1757, a philosophical inquiry into the origin of our ideas of the sublime and beautiful. Burke argued that vastness, obscurity, darkness, and terror could produce an elevated emotional response when experienced at a safe distance. Romantic artists fused Gothic imagery with Burkean theories of the sublime to create artworks that overwhelm the viewer emotionally, encouraging contemplation of forces greater than the self. Here we can see Caspar David Friedrich's Abbey in the Oakwood, and it's presented as a somber winter landscape dominated by the ruins of a Gothic abbey. What makes it Gothic is the old ruined church, death and decay, medieval architecture, and the dark, gloomy setting. It gives it a feeling of less of a natural look, but more of a nightmare look in the mind. What makes it sublime is the humans look tiny compared to nature. Nature feels endless and uncaring. It makes you think about death and time. It's not loud or dramatic, and it's more slow and emotional. This part includes more of a natural feel to it rather than a feeling within the mind. Next, we have Henry Fuseli's The Nightmare, that has a starkly different but equally powerful fusion of Gothic imagery and the sublime. Burke identified obscurity and power as central to the sublime, and Fuseli's imagery embodies both. Because the fear feels intense and personal, you don't fully understand what's happening. It shows fear inside the mind, not outside in nature, and you're disturbed but can't look away. It's a part of the subject of sublime. But why it's Gothic is because it has monsters and demons, darkness, supernatural fear, and dream and nightmare imagery. The two put together are a perfect example of how Gothic and sublime work together in Romantic artwork. While Friedrich and Fuseli differ stylistically, both artists employ Gothic imagery to achieve sublime effects. Friedrich's sublime is contemplative, rooted in nature, silent, and spiritually melancholy. Fuseli's is immediate and psychological, rooted in fear, desire, and the unconscious. Together, these works demonstrate the flexibility of Gothic aesthetics within Romanticism. Gothic imagery provides a visual language of darkness and uncertainty, while the sublime elevates these qualities into meaningful emotional experiences. To sum everything up, Gothic and sublime aesthetics function symbiotically in Romantic art. Gothic imagery introduces themes of decay, terror, and the supernatural, while the sublime reframes these themes as pathways to emotional and philosophical insight. By transforming fear into awe, Romantic artists challenge Enlightenment ideals of reason and control. Through works like Abbey in the Oakwood and the Nightmare, Gothic terror becomes not something to escape, but something to contemplate, revealing the depth, vulnerability, and power of human experience. Thank you for listening, and here are my resources.